Alrighty, so I saw Final Destination Bloodlines last night, and I thought about making a video then, but I figured I was already tired. It was like, past 10 o'clock when I got home, so figured get my thoughts collected and talk about it today. And so, when it comes to this movie, because I remember seeing the trailer, didn't think too much of it. I am pretty fond of the old Final Destination movies. I'd say I enjoyed Final Destination 3 the most, and then 1. The rest, As they try to get more creative with the kills, they start using more CGI. It just looks really bad. And it's honestly really tiresome when every movie ends the same. Oh my god, everyone dies. Oh, we think we made it. No, we just ended up dying, a few months to a year later. Every single movie just follows that, and it's just really annoying. Like, this is the 6th movie. Like, can we do something a little different, for once? Something that really the main reason why I went to go watch this movie was I look on Rotten Tomatoes, and I know, it's not the be all end all, but you look on Rotten Tomatoes and it says 92% critic, and I think 89% audience. I mean, I was pretty baffled. I was like, that I almost can't believe this. This doesn't make sense. In my head, I'm thinking they must have really changed it up for it to garner this rating. And right when the movie starts, it's showing a little bit more promise because you're like, oh, we're back in the 1950s. Oh, okay. Even though all the characters talk like they're in modern day. Not that I'm saying everyone back in the 50s, I'm not saying they all talk like this, like they're on the radio, talking about the ball game. But just the way they're speaking and reacting is very modern day. Cool premise. Quirky name, Final Destination Bloodlines, but I get it. It was a neat concept, but they did way, way less than I thought. And I guess to the movie's credit, it's only like an hour and a half, if a little more. It goes by incredibly fast. There's no filler, there's no stopping points. It's bam, 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 next scene, next scene, next scene. So I give them credit for that. The deaths are creative enough, and the CGI is not too bad. When the movie started, I was like, oh my god, the CGI looks awful and so noticeable. It was kind of making me worried, like, oh god, the deaths are going to look so bad, aren't they? But for the most part, they don't look too bad, honestly. For a movie, bloodlines and about families and this and that, kind of shocked that there really isn't that many deaths. Let me, before accidentally spoiling anything, the movie I think was fine. Literally, it's as serviceable as all the other movies. It's just fine. I'm kind of annoyed with how it's being glazed. Maybe people have just been starved for Final Destination, and that's why they're doing it, but virtually does nothing new and ends just like every other movie. It's so predictable. So it's like, wish they would have gotten a little bit more creative with it and changed some things up. But basically, it's about death coming after a family due to an event, and how the family handles, the Final Destination movie. But what I find so crazy is the acting from the main girl. I don't recognize this actress. Really terrible, really bad, just line delivery. Her brother, honestly, I felt like was much better. He was a believable, like, angsty teen senior in high school. Because he says some things that are really really stupid, but you go, okay, I could see how an 18-year-old says this thing. I can't spoil it just yet, but I don't even really remember the score too much. They showed some they had some score bits from older movies, but I think it was pretty generic. Not too bad. Cinematography, fine. Honestly, with how the beginning was, I was kind of getting the vibe they were really going to emphasize camera shots on, like, things you wouldn't notice your day to day, like something creaking or this thing making this noise, whatever. But they only really emphasized it in the beginning, which I liked a lot. Honestly, a Final Destination movie in different time periods would be kind of funny. Like, it's 1880 and a not steam powered, but a coal powered train has a horrible thing and it's a premonition, and whatever things like that. Because I must have not really remember the trailer. I was like, oh, what? Because the intro is pretty long, so I kept thinking, how much of this movie takes place in 1950? Are we about to do it where it's like something? There's the 1950 story, and it's like counter, in parallel with the modern day story and doing something, but it doesn't. Not really. I felt this movie also really, really embraced the comedic aspect, which is fine. It just annoys me when they're trying to have this uber serious bonding moment, and you're like, well, I don't feel anything from this because you've made both characters nonstop quirky jokes to make the audience laugh. Everything's been a joke. That intro scene is taken so seriously, and then after that, every character has constant quips and jokes, and they're clearly doing things to get, like, to be humorous. So I just felt tonally, it was like, why are you trying to do emotional music and this character's talking to this character, I'm not gonna let you die, and I feel nothing. And, all right. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. If you're a Final Destination fan, or just into this, whatever. Because before I go into spoilers, let me also mention, and this has nothing to do with the movie. This is not the movie's fault. So I go to a theater in Oklahoma City. Usually, it's like, I would say it's the nicer theater, because it's like, they serve food and stuff, nicer chairs. We go into this movie, theater's packed. Like, there's not a free seat anywhere. Next to my wife is a couple. I don't know if they were just drunk before the movie even started, or what their deal is, but they wouldn't shut their mouth for 1 second throughout the whole movie. Constantly, he would be talking to his, I don't know, wife, whatever, sister, mom, and just loudly kept talking nonstop. And, if there was like an obvious reference or something in the movie, he would just blurt it out nonstop. And it was just annoying the shit out of me, because I'm like, can you shut your mouth for 1 second? My God. Jesus, and I don't want to have to be the guy that calls the waitstaff and is like, can you kick him out? Because it's just, it's like I can enjoy the movie, but dude just wouldn't shut up. And it kind of, I'm trying to focus on the movie and the, what I'm hearing, everything. And just right here is just this annoying voice nonstop talking. And it just made me so irate. And then to my left is a mom with, I think, 3 kids. But it's like the mom, what looked like a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, and then like a 5-year-old. And I'm just thinking, why the hell are you bringing your 5-year-old to this movie and your 10-year-old? And then the 5-year-old, is fidgeting and just going, blah, 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 like making noise and asking the mom, like, can we go, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, does no one have an ounce of respect of being in the theater anymore? Jesus, And then the 2 people behind me, 2 friends, whatever, they just kept laughing and laughing and being loud, talking to each other loudly, laughing at things in the movie nonstop when no one else in the theater was laughing. And then the guy in front of me is, I guess, bored out of his mind, watching Instagram Reels on his phone with his fucking brightness up. And I was trying so hard not to cuss, but it's like I'm in the perfect, not even a triangle. I'm in the perfect center mass of this nightmare rotation of moviegoers. And I'm thinking, I get that this is like a dumb whatever movie, but you're paying $13.50 a ticket, and you're gonna be disruptive and be this annoying. Just crazy. When I go to a movie, I'm sitting down, I'm being quiet. Even when my wife tries to whisper to me, I mean, we're like trying, like, we virtually never, like, aren't even doing that whispering. Even when I'm trying to just eat popcorn, I'm trying to be slow and as quiet as possible, drink, all that. Because I'm being, I'm just trying to show respect how I would want to be respected. And it's just crazy the amount of people pissing me off in a theater. I'm like, God, I don't, this makes me not want to watch movies like this in the theater because it's either dumb teenagers or for whatever reason you're bringing your 5-year-old to a horrifically gory movie, and it was just crazy. And then, not shutting up, and it was just crazy. But just be aware of that, potentially when you're watching this movie. But on Letterboxd, which I can attach my Letterboxd profile to the comments, I gave it, I think, a 2.5 out of 5. Because it annoys me that it's just the same movie again. Try something new. So I'm going to get into spoilers now because there's so much I want to talk about. But yes, I think if you've watched the other ones and you enjoy them, go watch it. You'll have fun. But on to spoilers now. If you're planning on watching it, don't watch past here. But I do appreciate you sticking by and watching the first part of this video. So on to spoilers. Right from the beginning, I was like, okay, they are doing something different because you see the premonition, you're like, this is a premonition. But then when it cuts back, it's not the main girl who was in the premonition having the premonition, it's some other girl. And you're like, whoa, what? And it's modern day, and you're like, what? But then, again, because there's no filler, she's like, oh, I keep having dreams about grandma. And you're like, what? And so it sets up the grandma had a premonition, got everyone out in time, saved, literally like over 100 people. And so the whole thing is that those 100 people were supposed to die, but because they didn't, they all had, from the 50s, had a bunch of family, children, grandchildren, potentially great-grandchildren. So now death is like, oh, God, I've got a lot of cleaning up to do. So in my mind, I thought, ooh, she might meet, other families from the other movies, where they're like, oh, this person died, whatever. Or we might even get a montage of other families and their freak accidents because the movie is trying to be weirdly so comedic, but we get none of that. It's just their family, which, they start dying off very quick. And I was like, I was just hoping for a movie called Final Destination Bloodlines about, oh my God, I saved 100 lives and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I guess they did kind of insinuate that, like, we're the last, family. Every other family's died. I was like, you couldn't even give us, like, a montage of their family. But I'm also thinking, because in every other movie, it's kind of established, okay, they get the premonition, they try to survive, and they all die within, like, a month, if that. And so you're telling me, okay, yeah, 100 people survived an accident they weren't supposed to survive, but in every other movie, it's been established that death works incredibly fast. You're telling me after 50-plus years, homie was still like, I got a lot of catching up to do. My brother, you literally can make the craziest shit happen. Like, the soap bottle, so, oh, now you slipped and hung yourself in the shower. Oopsie, or whatever. And so it was just kind of hard to believe, like, oh, death's been struggling to get back to everybody. It was nice seeing Tony Todd again. The moment they said JB, I was like, I can't remember his first name, but I remember Bloodsworth. I was like, I'm sure it's him. They really don't do anything with him. He just establishes the rules he's already established, basically. And he gives like a heartfelt goodbye to the audience, which sucked because it's a super, super, like, meaningful scene as like a fan. But then it's just immediately hard cut to kind of like jokes and just felt so out of place, because the movie isn't taking itself seriously. So why have this super serious, like, goodbye, Tony Todd, rest in peace, honestly. They fucking wheeled his ass, in there to give this goodbye speech. But there's one kill where I was like, ooh, okay, that's pretty brutal. And one that I thought was pretty unique, but, you start kind of going like, what? Which may, in essence, all of the Final Destination movies, you kind of go like, what? Huh? But in this one, there's like an MRI machine that, fucking paperclip smacks a button, and it's like, research mode, magnetized black hole level, and just like everyone in the hospital's like, whoa, because everything's pulling to it. And you're kind of going, what? I've never been inside an MRI machine, and didn't Google this, but why would it allow you with one click of a button to go to, black hole suction mode, where it could just like kill everyone in the hospital? um it's interesting. I liked how the grandma built this fortified house. Well, she had Bloodworth do it. Doesn't really make sense that you would make it overtly like, I step out of the house and there's a million things to kill me. But how the grandma, when the granddaughter's like, ew, maybe she is actually crazy. I don't know if I believe her. And the grandma steps outside and is like, well, seeing is believing. Dies. But yeah, the main girl, her acting is just really bad. She's always doing the crazy eyes. She's always like, oh, oh my. And, just, why don't you believe me in Jesus? Which, luckily they do believe her pretty quick. Just, again, they establish the rules that have already been established. You either kill somebody, take their years of their life, like you're the freaking Shinigami, or you have to die and come back. Even though they mentioned Kimberly, but I'm pretty sure there's the whole backstory with Kimberly from Final Destination 2, where she and the cop ended up living for like a few more years and still died in a freak accident. So it's like, there are no rules. I mean, you can't beat it. And of course, every Final Destination movie does the same thing. Oh, we beat it. And at the end, oh no. And it happens in this one. It skips the brother. The main girl goes unconscious and he does CPR and saves her. And they're like, yeah, you died and came back. And then randomly he has like high school prom, and his date's dad, because the main girl's like, oh, he brought me back from the dead, like, thank God. And he's like, actually, technically not. And I was like, what person, even if you're a doctor, would be such a Redditor asshole, well, actually, to do that, and like, just, oh yeah, he saved your life. Why do you have to go, actually, you didn't actually die? Like, okay, that came out of nowhere. So, of course, they're like, oh my God, even though it's been, I don't know, a couple weeks, a month, it's like, oh my God, oh no, and a train derails and kills them both. And I just looked at my wife. I was like, fuck this movie. I'm so tired of this shit. Every movie is just the same. It's just, you were so close to doing something different, and then you just had to, well, nope, they think they survived, then they die. You're just making the same movie over and over again. My God. I just don't understand how this movie has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. That makes no sense. I mean, to each their own, I'm not saying because I don't like this movie that you can't like it. More power to you. I'm just truly confused how this poorly acted, very predictable movie has a 92. That is crazy. Because most, generally objectively good movies are in the 90s. So I thought, what? I was so hyped, like, they're going to do something different. Nope. And there was a revelation in there, because she's like, oh, well, the oldest going to die, then this and this and this. And then one of them doesn't die. And my wife was like, oh, watch it be that, they had a different dad or whatever. And it was like, I was like, wow, this movie really is predictable, isn't it? I guess I just want, you go to these movies to see the deaths. All right. So I thought we'd get more of that. There really isn't. Yeah. Don't know what to say. Very serviceable. That's about it. I gave it a 2.5. Realistically, it's probably a 3 out of 5. Just I mean, I can't think of anyone like friend wise where I'd be like, dude, let's go watch that. But I could imagine if you're in high school, you're 18, whatever, you're like, dude, Friday night, let's go watch it, and you're just, having a goof. But yeah, it's fine. I don't have that many nice things to say about it. So if you want to go watch it, I'd say go on a matinee or something so you're spending the least amount of money possible. So until next time, that is going to be it. Thank you for watching. I'm out.